Good morning. How is everyone?
Really good, Shane.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Emily.
And we are so happy to be here with you this morning in Poland. Who's having a good time out there? Well, this is a very incredible occasion for us because we are celebrating a very special anniversary today. And we're so excited to celebrate it with 18,000 of our new best friends out there. You see, today is our 118th anniversary. Yes, 118 days ago, we got married. On April 2nd of this year, in Miami, Florida, I said, I do.
And I said, I do too. But for me, it's been a little bit longer of a journey than just 118 days. I would say for me, it's about 1,676 days.
But who's counting, really?
Yeah, for Jeff, the journey's not quite as long. So I actually first laid eyes on Jeff when we were in Miami, Florida, on our way to a mission trip in the Dominican Republic. Yeah. So Jeff was, as you can see, ruggedly handsome. He was sharing his faith on the trip. I remember him talking about how he was praying a daily holy hour. He was just so confident in his Catholic faith and knew it really well. Jeff is very well traveled. He speaks several languages. He was telling amazing stories, and I'm from a Nebraska pig farm. And this was a new concept for me, and I was just very intrigued by him. And Jeff was also the hero on the trip who got the tarantula out of the girls' bathroom and safely released it into the wild. So I was pretty amazed by that, too.
And this was a big spider, okay? I mean, we're talking, this big. And another guy went into the bathroom to kill it with a hammer, and I safely removed it. So I think I won Emily's heart in a certain way on that occasion.
It's true, he did. So obviously I was pretty attracted to Jeff. I didn't know what the Lord had planned, but I knew that there was a reason that Jeff was placed consistently in my prayer and on my heart.
Well, it came to my attention towards the end of the mission trip and, a little bit afterwards that this really, really gorgeous gal was interested in me. But to tell the truth, at that point in my life, I wasn't really open to a relationship with her. And mainly, I was running this international missions program, and I had this idea in my head of if God called me to marriage, what the exact ideal, perfect girl would be that God would give to me. She would be incredibly international, so we could go on mission trips around the world constantly. She would speak a number of languages. She'd probably be Brazilian, so that we could go to Rio de Janeiro for the holidays, to go visit the in-laws. This is what I had in mind, and I was so, clinging to this image that I thought there's no way Nebraska, well, Nebraska's a great place. I know there's a lot of Nebraskans out there, but I mean, a pig farm, it just wasn't going to work. But, I continued just thinking about this, and Emily just kept on showing up. By God's grace, we would see each other at weddings. We'd see each other at focus conferences. We'd see each other here and there, and she just happened to like everything I posted on Facebook. Like, everything.
Okay, not everything, but no, I really, really liked Jeff. And I was obviously attracted to him, but when he didn't pursue me, I immediately felt all of my insecurities creep up. I could hear these tempting lies of, you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not smart enough, you're not well-traveled enough, you're not holy enough. All of these reasons that I thought that Jeff would never be attracted to me just kept haunting me. And I started believing these lies, and especially the lie that I wasn't good enough to be loved. Now, on a whole nother level, I was pretty confused because Jeff wasn't really the image of the man that I would marry either. I had pictured myself marrying, you know, like the 6'10", super Catholic baseball player that also happened to be a doctor. So I had created this idealized image of who I would end up with in my head, and I had to let go of this idealized man that I had become attached to. And I also was really wanting to do God's will. So my consistent prayer was, Lord, if this is not what you desire for my life, then just completely remove this desire from my heart. Because if it was just a distraction, I didn't want it either.
Well, as I look back on the situation and dig a few layers deeper, I recognize that there was some deeper issues behind why I didn't want to step into a dating commitment. You see, dating could lead to something a little bit scarier called marriage. And for me, that was the scariest thing I could think of. And I didn't really recognize how much fear was motivating me. But you know, dating, the purpose of dating is marriage and to discern if you're called to someone to be married. So I was avoiding marriage quite a bit. First, on one hand, I was terrified of losing freedom. This idea that I would commit to someone and something, and all my travels around the world would end, and I wouldn't be able to, on a whim, go to South America or whatever it was for the need of the kingdom. But I think there was something a little bit deeper that was also happening in my heart. So I grew up in a Catholic family, and you know, it wasn't perfect, but God always kept me close to His heart. I firmly believed in the truth of the Catholic faith. And, you know, so much so that I committed to being a Focus missionary. That's the Fellowship of Catholic University Students. I've been with Focus for 10 years now, and even clinging to the Catholic faith, the culture still pervaded me a little bit. It still had its effect on me. You know, we're bombarded with images and TV shows and media that attack marriage, you know, that make it seem like something that is not desirable whatsoever. You know, especially that affected me on the level of freedom. I didn't want to give up my freedom. But there was an even deeper thing that was at play here. And that was from a very early age. I remember, even from elementary school on, all of my young friends, not all of them, but a huge amount of them, experiencing divorce in their families. The statistic of divorce in the United States is at about 50%. That's half of the marriages that happen in the United States end in divorce. And I was witnessing time and time again my friends going through this agonizing, terrifying situation of families splitting up, you know, of siblings being split up, of holidays, family holidays disappearing altogether. And on the whole, there was just this pervading unhappiness that surrounded this idea of marriage. And I wasn't witnessing a joy that would come from marriage. I wasn't witnessing that it could be a good thing. And so I think subconsciously, I was even thinking to myself, okay, if there is the risk of so much pain in marriage and so much risk that there could be divorce and splitting up and trauma, you know, why would I choose that? And when my parents would get into a conflict, I was absolutely terrified that they were going to get a divorce. So subconsciously, I think I kind of made a vow and a choice, a logical narrative saying, I have the ability to choose. I have the ability to make a good choice in life to say, I can be a good Catholic, I can evangelize, I can pursue, you know, righteousness and holiness, but I don't actually have to make that commitment to get married. And so I would call it a vow of righteous Catholic single-hoodedness. Now, I think I had a lot of friends out there who did the same thing, but they didn't pursue righteous Catholic single-hoodedness. They actually pursued moving in with their girlfriends and just avoiding commitment altogether. They pursued relationships of mutual usage, but no, I just said, I'm going to be a righteous Catholic single.
So as I mentioned before, I'm from a pig farm, and wanted to show you a photo here. Oh. Oh, yes, there it is. So I was working through my insecurities of, all of these things. I'm from a pig farm. There's no way he'd ever like me. But thankfully, throughout all of this, I didn't have to work through my insecurities on my own. I have an amazing spiritual director who was able to help me understand the root of my insecurities and the root of my fears. He was able to help me see where Satan was in the lies and where Christ was in the truth. And that was huge for me. But it first had to start with me understanding that I had worth and I had dignity because I am a daughter of a king. I have worth because I am a daughter of God, and I can be comfortable in who I am in my skin because of that most important foundational piece. And so that was something that was unchanging, whether Jeff was going to be a part of my future or not.
So, if you can't tell, and if you haven't gathered, when it comes to relationships, I'm a bit thick-headed, right? I'm a little bit slow on the uptake. And God has to make things really, really clear to me. And it actually had to be a perfect storm of grace that would happen in order to get me to break from this vow of righteous Catholic single-hoodedness, if you will. And I ended up running into Emily repeatedly at all kinds of different events, and a perfect stream of weddings that we went to in different parts of the country, priestly ordination. And as we started hanging out together, it wasn't actually by choice, but just by happenstance, I started to find in this woman an amazing joy. I found myself foreseeing for the first time in my life the idea that, wow, there is someone out there that I could be consistently joyful with, consistently happy with, and oh my gosh, she is from a pig farm, but I could see a future with her. This is crazy. This is something I never would have ever anticipated. And it got a little bit scarier to me because as I was foreseeing this idea of that this could be something really incredible, the idea of this could be the one came into my head. And I was at just this moment of like freak-outedness. I'm inventing a lot of great words here today. But I had this freak-out moment, and I said, I've got to take this to prayer. So I went to pray because I had no clue what to do. I had this vow of righteous Catholic single-hoodedness, and I wasn't about to let go of it. But I said to God, God, just please speak to me. I need you to speak to me right now. And I said, I'm just going to listen. I'm not going to say a word. And I heard deep in my heart, clearer than I've ever heard anything in my entire life, God say the following: Jeff, I love you. I know you're trying to do the right thing, but you're acting out of fear, and I don't disappoint. And for the first time in my life, I recognized that it was fear motivating me. I hadn't consciously recognized it. But as soon as God illuminated that and brought that to light, it absolutely disappeared instantly. And I had this freedom. I felt almost physically different. And I knew right away I had to go pursue Emily. I had to run after her. And we just happened to be seeing each other next week, and I asked her to be my girlfriend. And 1 year later, we found ourselves on mission together again, this time in the Brazilian Amazon. And I got on one knee. So we're on this boat together. It was pretty awesome. We're on mission. I got on one knee, and I asked her if she would go on mission with me for a lifetime. And she said yes. So for me, Emily was a perfect manifestation of God's divine mercy. Even in the pain that I feared, and even in all the brokenness that I observed, he consistently was there molding, and he was healing me, and he was opening me, and he was there consoling Emily too, and helping dispel the lies that existed.
Yeah, and I knew that Jeff was my gift of divine mercy because through our vocation, we are called to serve one another, to be called into holiness and into eternity by being a free gift of self to one another in the good times and in the really hard times as well.
So, brothers and sisters, 118 days ago, was actually the vigil of Divine Mercy Sunday. And we got married. We exchanged our perpetual vows together. And I've experienced the freedom of being committed to loving another for life. Emily, for me, is a perfect manifestation of God's divine mercy. In a culture that's so broken, it is attracting His mercy. And so I pray, and our prayer is for you today, that our story might give you hope. In the midst of all the despair and brokenness that's out there, that you may be hopeful and that you may be open to pursue the vocation that God calls you to.
Thank you. God bless.
So speak loud.